My husband announced at dinner he'd sold my cabin for $60,000 while I was overseas. His family cheered and called it financial genius. He didn't know what he'd actually sold. I returned from 4 months in Singapore to find Owen standing at the head of his mother's table, crystal glasses raised, family cheering. "You all know about Violet's little cabin," he said. "Her impractical purchase 3 years ago." He paused for effect. "I sold it for $60,000 while she was overseas." The room erupted. Margaret clapped. Richard nodded like Owen had just solved a national crisis. Mason whistled. Owen pointed to the elaborate spread. "The roast, the wine, the tiramisu. The money for this dinner? It's from the cabin sale. At least one meal is covered." They laughed. At the joke, at the sale, at me. My phone was already vibrating in my pocket. What they didn't know was that 3 months earlier, before I left for Singapore, a federal security clearance briefing had quietly changed everything. Because of my assignment with a government-adjacent contractor, my cabin had been registered as a secured asset in federal databases. Every utility automated, cameras installed, property management hired. Owen had found the deed in my home safe. Combination was our anniversary date, which he mentioned proudly at the table. He'd spent 3 days practicing my signature using my old journals, then sold the property without my knowledge, without my consent, and without any idea what he'd actually sold. The V in Violet tilted wrong, he told Mason proudly. But I got the pressure right. My phone vibrated again. "Harrison Blackwell, attorney for the buyers." I excused myself to the porch. "Mrs. Whitmore," Blackwell said, voice unraveling. "Why are federal financial investigators at our office? They've seized files. They're talking about flagged property, restricted asset status, forged documents." 6 weeks earlier, while I documented compliance issues in Singapore, Owen had been celebrating. The federal databases that tracked my cabin had flagged the unauthorized transfer the moment it processed. A text appeared from Special Agent Catherine Reeves. "We had met during my clearance renewal. Aware of situation regarding your Pine Grove property. Maintain normal behavior. Attend family dinner as planned. Keep subjects unaware. Team mobilizing." The text had arrived 2 hours earlier, while my plane was still descending. She already knew. I went back inside and took my seat at the far end of the table, the place they assigned me, like an afterthought. Owen continued explaining his investment plans for the $60,000. Margaret served dessert. Richard proposed another toast to Owen's financial instincts. Then the first black vehicle pulled silently into the driveway, then a second, then a third. Through the curtains, I saw government plates. 6 figures emerging with coordinated calm. "I'll get the door," I said. Owen barely looked up. He was explaining to Richard how he planned to triple the money. Agent Reeves stood on the porch, flanked by 5 others. "Are all subjects present?" she asked quietly. "They're in the dining room," I said, "having dessert." Their footsteps on Margaret's polished hardwood moved like a countdown. Owen's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Tiramisu slid onto Margaret's tablecloth. "Owen Whitmore," Agent Reeves said, badge raised under the chandelier. "You are being taken into custody in connection with wire fraud, forgery, and conspiracy related to an unauthorized property transfer." Owen stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. "It was just a property deal. A simple real estate transaction. Selling federally registered property using forged documents," Reeves said evenly, "is not a simple transaction." Margaret's hand flew to her pearls. He was being resourceful. Richard tried to stand. An agent said quietly, "Please remain seated." He sat. The forged documents Owen had spread proudly across the table were photographed as evidence. The celebration dinner, the wine, the toast, the laughter, was documented in the same frame. Owen turned to me. His face moved through confusion, anger, then desperation. "Violet, tell them this is a misunderstanding. You're my wife." I met his eyes with the same silence I had spent 6 years perfecting. The silence he had trained me into. The one he'd always mistaken for surrender. For the first time, it wasn't. Full story on channel. Link below.